The morning of February 28, 1994, dawned cold and clear over the Balkans. The crisp air carried a sense of foreboding, as if the land itself knew of the impending turmoil. A tense quiet hung in the air, a silence that was almost deafening, as if the world was holding its breath. This stillness was a stark contrast to the brutal conflict raging below in the former Yugoslavia, where the scars of war were etched deeply into the landscape. On this day, the world would witness a pivotal event in the Bosnian War, one that marked a significant turning point in NATO's involvement in the conflict. It was a moment that would be remembered for its profound impact. This was the Banja Luka incident, the first combat engagement in the alliance's history, a moment that would test the resolve and capabilities of NATO forces. The backdrop for this clash was the ongoing siege of Sarajevo, a city that had become a symbol of suffering and resilience. Bosnian Serb forces, heavily armed and equipped, had encircled the city, subjecting its inhabitants to a brutal campaign of shelling and sniper fire. The civilians, caught in the crossfire, endured unimaginable hardships. The international community, spurred by harrowing images of civilian suffering, sought to intervene. The world could no longer stand by and watch the atrocities unfold. The United Nations established a no-fly zone over Bosnia and Herzegovina, aiming to prevent further bloodshed and to provide some semblance of protection to the beleaguered population. NATO, tasked with enforcing this no-fly zone, deployed fighter jets to the region under Operation Deny Flight. These jets were a symbol of hope and a deterrent against further aggression. Their mission was to deter violations of the UN mandate and protect vulnerable populations. The skies above Bosnia became a battleground for control and protection. However, the situation on the ground remained volatile, with tensions simmering between the warring factions and the international forces. The threat of escalation was ever present. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the resolve of NATO and draw a definitive line in the skies above the Balkans. It was a high-stakes standoff that the world watched with bated breath. The events of that day would have far-reaching consequences, shaping the course of the Bosnian War and forever altering the landscape of modern warfare. The lessons learned and the actions taken would resonate for years to come, influencing military strategies and international policies. Operation Deny Flight, launched in 1993, was born out of a desperate need to alleviate the suffering of civilians trapped in the crossfire of the Bosnian War. The primary objective was to enforce the no-fly zone over Bosnia and Herzegovina, denying warring factions the use of their air power. This included monitoring and intercepting unauthorized military flights, a task fraught with danger in such a volatile environment. The operation was not without its complexities and limitations. The rules of engagement were strict, requiring NATO pilots to exercise extreme caution to avoid escalating the conflict. Identifying hostile aircraft and determining intent proved challenging in the chaotic airspace above the Balkans. On that fateful February morning, 6 J-21 Jastrabs, light attack aircraft belonging to the Bosnian Serb Air Force, took off from their base. Their mission to carry out airstrikes against targets in central Bosnia, a direct violation of the UN-mandated no-fly zone. This act of defiance would trigger a chain of events that would thrust NATO into its first combat engagement. The Serbian pilots, aware of the risks, were prepared to exploit any perceived weakness in the NATO air patrol. They believed their knowledge of the terrain and their maneuverability would give them an edge in a confrontation with the technologically superior NATO forces. Their mission was a gamble, a calculated risk with potentially dire consequences. At the heart of the Banja Luka incident were the pilots of the 6 J-21 Jastrabs, a group of brave men who would soon face one of the most challenging missions of their careers. These men, seasoned veterans of the Yugoslav wars, were no strangers to the dangers of aerial combat. They had faced numerous threats in the skies and had emerged victorious time and again. Their aircraft, the J-21 Jastrab, was a Yugoslav-built light attack aircraft designed for close air support and ground attack missions. It was a reliable workhorse, known for its durability and effectiveness in various combat scenarios. While outmatched by the more modern F-16s in terms of speed and technology, the Jastrabs were nonetheless nimble and capable in the hands of skilled pilots. The pilots knew how to push their aircraft to the limits, making the most of its strengths. Leading the flight that day was Captain Ranko Vukmirovic, a highly decorated pilot known for his tactical acumen and unwavering courage. His leadership was a source of inspiration for his fellow pilots. Alongside him flew other experienced aviators, each with a deep understanding of the unforgiving skies above Bosnia. They had trained together, flown together, and now they were ready to face this new challenge together. Their mission was fraught with danger, but their determination to protect their homeland fueled their resolve. They knew the risks, but their sense of duty and loyalty to their country and comrades was stronger. The J-21 Jastreb, while not a technological marvel, possessed certain advantages in this particular theater of war. Its design allowed it to perform well in the challenging conditions they would face. Its maneuverability and low-altitude flight capabilities made it well-suited for navigating the mountainous terrain of Bosnia. The pilots could use the landscape to their advantage, evading enemy radar and making surprise attacks. The pilots, intimately familiar with every peak and valley, were confident in their ability to exploit the terrain to their advantage. They had studied the maps meticulously and knew the best routes to take. These men, bound by duty and camaraderie, flew into the teeth of danger that day. Their bond was unbreakable, forged through countless missions and shared experiences. They understood the risks, the near certainty of encountering NATO fighters, but they pressed on, driven by a belief in their cause and unwavering loyalty to their comrades. Their resolve was unshakable, and their courage undeniable. Their actions would etch their names into the annals of history, forever linked to the first shots fired in anger by NATO. Their bravery and sacrifice would be remembered for generations to come, a testament to their dedication and heroism. The odds were undeniably stacked against the Serbian Jastrebs that day. The tension in the air was palpable as the pilots prepared for what seemed like an insurmountable challenge. Patrolling the no-fly zone were some of NATO's most advanced fighter aircraft, including the formidable F-16 Fighting Falcon. These jets were the epitome of modern aerial warfare technology. The F-16, a technological marvel of its time, boasted superior speed, firepower, and advanced radar systems that far surpassed the capabilities of the aging Jastrebs. Its state-of-the-art avionics and weaponry made it a fearsome opponent in any aerial engagement. For the Serbian pilots, encountering the F-16s meant facing a technologically superior adversary. The disparity in capabilities was stark, and the challenge was daunting. The F-16's radar could detect and track their aircraft from miles away, while its long-range missiles posed a deadly threat. The Serbian pilots knew that a direct confrontation would likely end in disaster. The Jastrebs, reliant on visual identification and limited to short-range engagements, were at a distinct disadvantage. Their older technology and limited range of engagement tools made them vulnerable. Despite the technological gulf, the Serbian pilots were not without their own advantages. They had a deep understanding of their aircraft and a strong sense of camaraderie and determination. Their intimate knowledge of the local terrain gave them a tactical edge, allowing them to use valleys and mountains as cover from the F-16's radar. This knowledge was a crucial part of their strategy. Moreover, their years of experience flying in the region had honed their skills in low-altitude maneuvering and dogfighting. These skills were essential in evading the advanced radar and weaponry of the F-16s. The Serbian pilots knew that their best hope lay in exploiting the element of surprise and using their agility to outmaneuver the F-16s in close-quarters combat. Their ability to execute sharp turns and sudden maneuvers could give them a fleeting advantage. Their strategy was a risky one, akin to a David facing a Goliath, but they were determined to make the most of their limited resources and defend their airspace. The pilots' resolve and bravery were their greatest assets. The clash of these two contrasting air forces, one technologically advanced, the other relying on experience and cunning, would be a defining moment in the Banja Luka incident. This encounter would test the limits of both technology and human skill in the theater of war.